I'm Marianne Binetti, and today I'm going to talk to you about 3 different ways to make the hard-working hosta work in your landscape. Now, this plant is a hosta. It's a perennial. It comes back every year, does quite well in the shade. In the Pacific Northwest, where I garden, it also can adapt to a partial sunny situation. But this hard-working plant, you have no idea how many things it can do for you in your landscape. So first thing I'm going to do is show you how to, if you have hosta in the ground, how to divide it up and put it in a container, because using it in a container in some creative ways is a great way to use hostas. So here's my container. It's kind of lightweight, has really good drainage holes in it. I made the drainage holes even bigger with a drill bit. But look what I'm going to do. I'm going to recycle these. These are the little plastic trays that you buy annuals in. I'm going to stick those in the bottom of my container before I add my hosta, just so that I can keep those drainage holes free and that water flowing well. Cover that with the potting soil. But I'm not going to fill this whole pot up with potting soil, because I am going to be digging up and dividing this hosta plant. And it's got quite the root system, which is what makes hosta so drought resistant. So sometimes you can use a trowel and go in here. I'm going to try and separate off this little clump of hosta here. I can try to dig down. Yep. If you have a bigger hosta plant, I would bring out the big guns like this. But what I like to do is, this is a root pruning saw, and I can just saw off this plant where it was joining the mother clump. See, now it's going to come out much easier. Okay, so I'm just going to set it into the pot, the center of the pot. Hosta's not that picky about soil, so I'm going to go ahead and use some of this soil that was already growing in. Remember, there is potting soil in this container. Mixing it with a little bit of my good garden soil. So having a hosta in a pot is just one way to use a hosta in your landscape. And what do you do with a potted hosta? Well, in my blue and yellow garden, I have a hosta in a quite large plastic nursery pot, a 15-gallon pot that used to have a tree in it. But I let that beautiful hosta leaves spread out, and it hides the fact that this is a plastic pot sitting inside a decorative painted wood pot. And this blue wood pot is a Versailles style container, which is imitating the square containers that you'd see at the Palace of Versailles. But I also have a tall urn in my blue and yellow garden, and this is to give height to the flower bed, because the urn raises up the plant. But here's a tip. I did not plant the hosta directly into the urn. No, instead, once again, a black plastic nursery pot is stuck inside the white urn. And that way, if the hosta needs to be divided, I can lift it out and divide it up and not have to disturb the entire urn, because believe me, once your hostas expand and the roots cling to the side, it's very difficult to get them out of a container. Now, the reason I like hostas in containers like this, especially when they're out away from the house in garden beds, is because hostas are more drought resistant, which means you need to water them less in containers than you would traditional plants that are in containers, such as annuals or bedding plants. And so I can go away for a week and water these hostas in these pots before I leave in the summer and return, and because hostas have thick roots that hold on to moisture, they are more drought resistant. Now, here is a third way to use hostas, and that is to hide the fading foliage of bulbs. Yes, when you have bluebell bulbs that bloom in the spring, they can be rather invasive. People don't like them. They love the flowers, but they don't like the yellowing foliage afterwards. So I let the bluebell bulbs grow near the hosta plants, because as soon as these flowers fade, the big, bold leaves of these hostas are going to hide the decaying bulb foliage, and I never have to look at the mess or dig up these bulbs. Now, if you get a beautiful hosta, like the ones with the golden leaves, like Hosta June, sometimes I like to give them a place of honor. and use my hostas as focal points by elevating them, putting them in a decorative container, or using them on a pedestal to really make them full of their own self-esteem, because they know how lovely they look all summer long just by the foliage, not even having to worry about flowers. So hostas are a great perennial for the shade, but hostas are also a great perennial to use in landscaping, for hiding bulb foliage, for filling big pots or urns, and especially just for growing in the shaded areas of your garden, like this. This has been Marianne Binetti with easy answers for great gardens that include using hostas.
If you enjoyed these gardening tips, subscribe to our channel so you can get updates on new videos and stay in the know about all things gardening. Click the red subscribe button below. See the description below for more information about how to connect with us on PlantersPlace.com, Facebook, and Instagram.